Hey guitar players, I'm Jules Leyhe. I'm here to talk about some Duane Allman licks and techniques. And I want to do so by showing you the Statesboro Blues intro, because that's just sort of like Duane's hallmark moment. So let's get to the Statesboro Blues intro. Here it is. All right, now let's break down some of these licks. So one of the things about Duane's playing is that my guitar here is tuned to an open E chord. So we can slide this chord all over the place, and that's really cool. But now what we really want to do to sound more like Duane is isolate notes and get notes not sounding like a full chord, but single notes like this. We're in the key of D, so we have to actually play it out of our 10th fret position. And the trick to a lot of these slide licks is that we're going back and forth between the 10th and 8th fret. And I want to show you a right hand exercise to get these notes sounding one at a time as opposed to a chord. What we don't want to have is we don't want this. That sounds kind of cool, but that's not what Duane's doing. He's doing licks more like this. One note at a time. You could hear a little bit of a chord at the end. It's not wrong, it's just we're not going like this the whole time. It's much more like Aretha Franklin singing some blues. So anyway, how we get this is we have to mute with our right hand. Our left hand is not doing the muting. Our left hand is focusing on the phrasing and the articulation. But the right hand has to go like this. Watch over here. An exercise that's great to get into this and great for muting is as follows. Going back and forth one note at a time between the 10th fret and then moving down each string. That's the trick, is muting strings as you leave them. So try to do this slowly. Part of it is a scale, but part of this is just a finger pattern. We can get in and play more notes out of a certain scale. This is just a physical exercise to get the muting together. This is super important. If you can do this, then you're getting to the Duane sound and the Duane style. But you really do need to slowly be able to go. My right hand is moving as a unit. The sort of resting position is each finger gets a string starting on the low E, thumb, index, middle, ring, pinky. And it's just great to get in this habit because we need to have a right hand here. Our fingers need to be muting. So when they're resting on the string, that's what they're doing. Our pinky is resting on the string, not necessarily to pick, although guys like Sonny Landreth actually use their pinky quite a bit. Really, we're muting here. So try to do this exercise. that was descending. We can ascend also. And the trick is, once we can do that, now we can get our bluesy licks. Check this out. Instead of just doing that pattern, I'm gonna now play some licks, and it's gonna start to sound like Duane, because this is where his zone is. So those are some of the technique things that we have to start with. Okay, now let's dissect these Statesboro blues licks one by one. The cool thing is that our 10-8, that's where the call comes from in each of these licks. The call is this. That's actually 10 on the A string, which is tuned to B, but I'll call it the A string. We go like this. Up to the 8th on the D string. If you can play that and get it sounding not like this, but like this, that's the goal. So the actual intro starts like this. So after our call, Duane slides into the 10th fret on the G string, ghosts this note down here on the A string. You have to hear this lick in time. There's also this really interesting thing that the slide picks up these harmonics when we zing it back really quick. When we whip it back to the 8th fret, the characteristic of that note changes. It's not this. It's this. So there's a lot of that in Duane's playing. The slide is really moved with conviction and this force, and velocity is a word I like to use because it's there's a target and we have to zoom to it, and when we do zoom to it, these notes have this sort of life that you can hear it. It's unmistakable. There's harmonics, and it's just a beautiful part of Duane's playing. So anyway, after this, we get to another call, and we play a classic rock lick that we've played fretted a bunch of times, but now we're playing it with our slide. It goes like this. One more time. So what we do here is we play the first part of the call, but then the lick starts right on the downbeat, so we can't complete the call. This lick is tricky to get down. This is where our notes have to come in one at a time. I might have sounded a teeny bit of a second note at a time when I went like this. And that's okay, it's not against the rules. We just don't want this. And watch my right hand. See how before I attack the next string, it's actually simultaneous. The thumb goes like this. When we pick a string, the string that we just attacked has the finger that attacked that string land on it. That sounds far more confusing than it is, but all that happens is we're muting the string right as we attack the next string. This is like the name of the game. If you can get this down, the licks pop up and come to life. Once more. And then we slide up to 15. Here's that velocity I was talking about. It's not this. It's like this. Gotta go whip, whip, woo. So that whole lick one more time. Okay, then we're halfway there. We get to our second lick, our call. That's a cool whip whip doo. Duane does this really sassy slow slide. And then we go back and forth. This is tricky. We go B string, G, D, A really quick. And it sounds like this. Then we have our last call and response. We go. This is one of my favorite Duane licks. This G and B string zone right here, where we go. What I always think of when I hear this is I think of a blues harp player going. What we're doing here is we're sliding back and forth between the B string and the G string. And what we have to get the sound, we have to whip the slide back from 10 to 8. And then we whip it right back up to the 10th fret, but on the G string. And that over and over, you can play this over and over and over. And Duane will do that. You'll recognize this. He goes like this. If you really dig in, okay, so now the band is in, and Duane plays a chorus with the band, but Greg hasn't come in singing yet. Let's go through just chunk by chunk. The very first thing. So this is a great lick. Starting the solo, Duane does this thing where, again, he whips the slide back from 10 to 8 on the E string. You can hear right there, I got some cool harmonics popping out because I attacked it hard and I whipped the slide. It's not... That was kind of slow. You need it to be like... You need to dig in, both your right and left hand. Those notes were like this. 10 to 8 on the E string, back up to 10. And then we go 8 to 10. And then we slide from there up to 15, but it's kind of 15, 17. We go. This is tricky. This is where your muting that you've practiced by doing this 10 to 8 exercise comes in handy, because we have to get across the E, B, and G strings and go. It's not. That sounds like ass. So what we need to do, it's a right hand thing right here. Our left hand is taking care of these notes, but our right hand has to mute. One more time slowly. Then we're getting to the next part where we begin with that cool sort of, it's almost like a train whistle or something. And that's just the D and G strings at the 10th fret. And then we go like this. Pretty simple, going back to the 10 to 8 zone that I was talking about earlier, starting on the G string. And then we do this cool, we kind of milk our blues note right here, which is, we haven't talked very much about scales, but obviously we're using the blues scale a lot, which includes this note. So here's where we're kind of milking the blues zone. Some of these bends in the notes we're playing, it's not exactly the 8th fret. Maybe it's like the 9th or the 8.5 fret, because the slide is not, we're not just dealing with 12 frets, we're kind of dealing with all of these notes. So anyway, back to that cool, that's our lick that I just talked about a moment ago. Now we're wrapping up the chorus and we go like this. That's sliding from 8 to 10 on the B. And then we go. Now we slide up to the 13th on the G and B, and we go. Slide back to 10. One more time with those last few licks. All right, so that's the intro to Statesboro Blues. That's the breakdown. Obviously, Duane Allman's an amazing slide player, and you could spend the rest of your life learning these licks and getting them under your fingers. But I hope some of the techniques that I help break down can help you with your own slide voice, and one day we'll be breaking down your licks. Hope you had fun.